Welcome back to Unpaved Approach, where we talk about real estate, real life, and the lessons learned along the way. So, Daryl, I have some questions about investing in real estate.
Favorite
One
topic.
day, a stranger just stopped me and we had a conversation, and his advice was invest in real estate now. I swear we had an hour-long conversation about this. I really wish I knew who he was or had his contact information because I'd sure love to have him on the show,
Right.
but wasn't
Yeah.
thinking about that then. He told me to invest in real estate, and I'm really curious because I don't know how. The advice that he gave me, take the equity out of your current home and purchase a investment property. Is that even possible? Can you do that?
Yeah. That's it. For one, coming from a stranger, I think that's phenomenal advice because I remember even growing up, me and a lot of people being told, don't take risk, right? Like, why would you buy an investment property? Why would you rent out your property, right? It's a bad idea. But when you really sit back and think about how much more powerful and how that's actually how people gain wealth is through real estate, it all actually makes sense. If you are going to pull equity out of your home, my best advice is to definitely not stretch to the high end of your budget because you got to understand that with investments, there's going to be ROIs, there's going to be cap rates, there's going to be property management expenses if you go that route for tax purposes, even, right? Like it's a business behind having that investment property. So if you are going to take out that equity, which really is definitely really simple, I know I got some great lenders who they're probably chopping at bits right now hearing you talk about, oh, take our equity. I know they're just like, yeah, call me, Dave. Let's go. Let's do this today. But yeah, it's definitely something really good to do. And if you think about how, if you are able to achieve and obtain enough properties, you could really set up your families for generations down the line just by buying and selling those different properties. And you still have your original property that you may want to live into forever, right? Or you may want to turn that into a rental so you can buy that bigger home, or you want to sell that first home to buy a bigger home or some land, whatever you need to do. So it's definitely possible. And I love that idea, especially when it's a lot harder to just come up with 20% out of your pocket to turn into a true investment, right? Rate wise, they say you need to save at least 15 to 20%. Not only does it eliminate PMI, but if you buy anything under that, if it's not within 3.5 or 5% is a typical conventional loan, you got to wait at least a year before you can invest that property. So some people try to really overstretch themselves trying to pay for two properties, but they don't take an account for that there could be some expenses, right? Especially depending on the age of the home that you buy next. Even if you think about house hacking, buying a duplex next, right? That AC blows out on one side, you got a flood on the other side. There are going to be expenses that are going to incur as you have your investment properties. But to be able to even do that is something that the average person never even thinks about in their mind. And that's how we get so stuck in this 9 to 5 trap because we don't take the risk and pull that investment out. We don't pull the trigger on some of that stuff. And even now, like everybody complains, the interest rate, yada, 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 right? Oh, I'm just going to wait till the rates go lower. And what they don't think about is the minute that rates get super low again, guess what house prices are going to do? They're going to go up because nothing says that once the rate goes down, that house price is going to down. Everybody's going to be wanting to buy and it's going to be too late. It is actually at the historical average if you really think about real estate in general, which people don't understand. The media hypes this up and portray it to be something that it's really not. And you have some really smart people, even yourself, who aren't afraid to buy in this market because this is the time that you realistically need to start buying because the prices are actually starting to come down to where you need to be. That helps everybody who's working for you negotiate properly. Before I go off into a completely different lane, absolutely being
Yeah.
able to pull out equity out of your home once it really appreciates it. Yes, you definitely can easily do that. Whether it be a credit institution or even a lender or financial advisor, it's definitely possible. And just my best advice to people who are going to do that, definitely have a strategic plan on what you plan on doing with that equity money and don't just go out there and buying the biggest property because you can see just because you got so much out of that home because you may want to tap into that home later on and you want to kind of keep some equity in first property as well. So buy something that a little affordable, efficient if anything needs to happen, or if you want to update it, make sure it's within a budget that's going to be comfortable for you as you take on these two properties because that's the smartest way to get your next property.
Yeah.
And that's just how I see it.
So how did banks respond to that? And see, in my mind, it's going to cost so much more for me to go invest in a rental property, right?
That's definitely the correct question because I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that a lot of people don't understand, right? Like when it comes to you buying a rental property, it's not calculated the same as how much do you make as far as your W 2 job or your 1099 job, whatever you do. That rental property, first, what they're going to do is that financial institution in that bank, they're going to look at the overall rental rate, right? And there's different ways you could do it. I like to go on an Airbnb. You can get a breakdown of, you put the address of the property that you're looking at, and it gives you a breakdown per day of what that rental rate will look like, right? Of course, every number is going to be different, but ultimately you could take that number, you could times that number by however month of the day, 30, 31, 28, if it's February, right? And then they're going to multiply that by 12 months. And that's going to give you a true idea of how much income that should be produced out of that property if it's the right property to rent. And you got to also think about what area or location am I getting that rental property, right? What's surrounding me? Am I going after nurse rentals that are near hospitals? Do I want safer schools? Do I want specific communities? I know some people need super high-end luxury communities, especially down in Naples. They got specific pockets they want to be in. Do I want to be on the river districts, parks? All of that plays a factor into how much rental return you're going to get. And then you take that rental return and you're out going back to calculating how much it's going to cost as a business expense, because that rental property is a business. People don't think about that, but that is a business, right? Then you get to see how much extra am I going to make? Am I making a couple extra $100, or was it a bad investment and I'm losing a couple $100 because I'm thinking long term, oh, this area is fantastic and it's just going to appreciate and just make me all this money. But in You're gonna buy some bad investments. We all do it. You're gonna have some really good investments and there's gonna be some bad investments. But the cool thing that I really love about a bad investment is that you can always sell it. Simple as that. Don't hold it, sell it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think you kind of touched on it before, but what would be your advice into someone starting out? Do you start off with a house, with an apartment, a duplex?
I definitely look at the market. What I mean by the market is the area you're in or the area you plan on buying. Of course, everybody will always say get the duplex, triplex, quadplex. That's always a phenomenal idea. But what people don't account for is that it is still expensive. And you have to think about, yeah, it may be cool to buy that duplex, but if I'm not getting the right amount of rental in return, rental money back, that duplex may cost you a lot more than just that single family home. Because there are some nice, really efficient single family homes out there that's going to generate you way more than the duplex that people won't even realize it. It could be a small little 800 square feet property sitting on a lake, right? Versus this massive duplex that's sitting here in the middle of the city that the rent is just going to keep diving in prices. So my best advice is to really get with somebody who's financially savvy. I know myself, I really like to tap into it, run the comps. Don't look on Zillow because Zillow's never accurate. I know everybody got these estimates and they feel like, oh yeah, my house is worth this, but no appraiser, no man is going to tell you that that estimate is ever right. And when it boils down to it, it's going to be that appraiser. So I personally, especially if you just starting to get into it, I like being able to get a little single family home because I think what some people don't realize too is even for your first one, even if it's not your main home you want to stay in, you could definitely take advantage of that FHA loan, live in it for about a year or two, and turn that puppy into an investment before you want to buy your dream home, even if it's a little smaller. So there's a lot of different ways to get into it. I'm definitely willing to open to share more about that. But my best advice is to definitely think about your bottom line and where you're at. And if that single family home or that trailer or whatever is in the best of your budget to invest in, just buy it. Don't wait and sit back thinking I got to get this big old duplex and all that stuff. And that's the way the house hack can make money. No, the way the house hack can make money is first what fits your budget. And then you buy according to your budget.
So some of his advice was to use the equity, get a rental property, get that paid off, and then use that equity from that property to get another one. That way you get your house out of the picture and out of that risk, right?
Yeah, which is 100% right, because that's the hardest thing. Jobs get lost and all kind of stuff. And the worst thing you want to do is to lose your primary home while you got your other home, because the minute you pull that equity out, you're putting your primary home at risk. So that is actually really good advice, because you can pay off that HELOC or whatever you have on that first home, and then you don't have any fear to worry about it. You know what I mean? Definitely create some kind of LLC as well to legally protect yourself against whatever can happen. People can slip and fall. That's another thing that people don't really talk about when it comes to these rental properties. Put it in some kind of LLC. It's $100 to file for one, and then put that title underneath that to protect yourself. And then once you pay off your primary home, there's going to be definitely a sense of relief. And then you're going to understand that now I'm going to pay off that second home that I pulled the equity off of with the next one I'm going to buy. And you just really keep rinsing and repeating the cycles, and you really do start to build the wealth over the time.
So would you try to pay off that rental as fast as you could, or pay off your primary home first?
That's a tough one. That really is a tough one.
Okay.
Overall, I would
Okay.
definitely think pay off your primary home, because you're going to live there. And then definitely, I'm a person who doesn't like the debt. Pay off that rental as soon as you can. But I think for me, ideally, I would think pay off that primary home. Definitely get that out underneath you, because once you get that primary home paid off, especially if it's something that you really enjoy and you love, that's yours forever. Nobody's coming after you. You know what I mean? Unless there's some street renovation that they're going to try a little lean on. If you don't pay the little special assessments from according to whatever county you're in, nobody can come after that property as your land. And it's a lot harder to try to come back living into that investment property, especially when you know that primary was the one that you originally fell in love with from the begin with. So I would say pay that first one off, and that balance should be a little lower too compared to your next one, depending on what you get. So that's what I would
Gotcha.
do. Yeah.
So thinking about rental properties, it's kind of nerve-wracking to think of what could go wrong in the rental. Someone waking you up in the middle of the night, there's something wrong with the plumbing. Now, I think you already mentioned this, but you can get property management companies to pretty much run all that for you, correct?
Yeah, you can. And I think there's a lot of discouragement about property management companies. You got, just like any business, you got some that really do a phenomenal job. You got some that a little lackluster. But overall, it gets you as the owner and as that landlord away from that 3 a.m. phone call. Unless you got an emergency list of contacts of plumbers and electricians and AC mans on a refrigerator
Yeah.
magnet that they need to call in case of emergency, it's a lot better and a lot easier when they tap into that property manager. And what's also cool too about property management that people don't think about is a portion of that rental rate is gonna go to the in case shit hits the fan fund. So they're going to take a little bit of those funds and separate it just for that reason. Pipe burst or something crazy happened, you should already have the equity sitting there from the returns that they've collected from your tenants to protect you from that. So that's the one thing that I really do like about it. And it's also nice too, because you get the business expense, especially if that rental really takes off and blows up. You know what I mean? You get the business expense side of it to claim that back on taxes to keep your taxable income down.
So do they basically control how much you charge for rent?
They're going to kind of give you ideas of where it can be, but you're going to be the overall overseer. But depending on if you try to go too high on that rate, a good property management company is going to let you know that there's going to be some time before somebody really tries to rent that property because it just costs too much. And then depending on if it's not in immaculate shape and you're trying to go to the highest maximum rental rate period, nobody's going to want to be there. You are ultimately, as a landlord and owner, are responsible no matter what. The property management is just a middleman in between. It's just when we're going through a transaction buying a house, right? End of the day, it's not up to me to be like, hey, Dave, this is the one that you should get. Hey, it's up to you to make that decision. I don't have any control over it. My best thing to do is to advise you that maybe this is a good idea and a bad idea. But you, as the owner, you have to pull the trigger and be the one to say yes or no to this. So that's kind of how it works as well, even with the property management companies.
Now, I'm just curious, how long before you could start seeing some residual income?
I would say it's tough to give a definite, definitive answer to that, but within a year or two, you can definitely kind of see where the appreciation is going to be. You can definitely kind of see where the equity is. And the cool thing too is the people, whoever holds, whether you bought it cash or a lender, they can kind of tell you where that payoff and that equity is. And hopefully you have somebody who was a little bit sharp and savvy that kind of bought you already with a little bit of equity walking into that place, because then you know too, I already got something sitting there. But within a year or two, definitely those 2 years, that's when you can definitely see some good growth and appreciation. And then you can kind of calculate as well, look at the houses around you that are getting purchased or getting sold. What was the price of that sell? If those prices are a lot higher than what you got, you can already kind of see that your home value should be ticking up. But the prices are going a little lower than where you're at, and that's going to kind of give you an idea of at that point in time where the market is at. And then the other cool thing about the market is that since it is so unpredictable, just because your house is down one day, you could wake up the complete next morning and that thing can then shot up in price because there's $1 million home right next to you that out of nowhere has just popped up. The market constantly changes. And even from an appraisal standpoint, no, I'm not an appraiser, but just by working with quite a bit of them. And then as I studied, even getting my broker's license, learning a little bit how appraisals operate, right? Their perspective on the market and their opinion of the price of that home changes every single day. So it's just, you can definitely start to see some instant returns depending on what you buy and where you are. Definitely.
I thought it was funny that you had mentioned, don't look on Zillow. That's exactly what I do, Daryl. Look
Yeah.
on Zillow.
Yeah. Yeah. We all do it. Even myself, as I start to fix up my house, right, and get ready to put it on the market, I look at this estimate and I look on Realtor, I look on homes, and every single one of them have different price opinions, different rates. So it's okay, what's the true one? And then you really think about it, right? They're telling me my house value is here, but there's no way my house value is here. I just replaced all of this, or I just updated this, or fixed that. Or even in general, you look at it and it's like there's a house across the street that just sold that's double the cost of mine. What do you mean this is my value? So it doesn't make sense. You really got to get a market expert to kind of go on there and really run the comps and really see what's going on in your area. Which is kind of cool too, even in comparison to some of that Zillow stuff, right? You can just kind of get the numbers even based off your property appraiser to kind of get an idea where it's going to be at. Because kind of think about where that house is, all the homes surrounding the area, what's being built down the road. Is there some big school or something getting built out here? Your value should be going up. It's never going to be what that Zestimate is telling you, because Zestimate has no idea what's going on around you. Even when you put a home on the
Good point.
MLS, Zillow takes all that information from the MLS days after the fact, and it tries to calculate and put in its own little third party rate. And that's why you see so much issues going on with Zillow now, and why it's such an uproar about it, because we have been taught, right? Unless you're really in the business, you've been taught just jump on Zillow and check it out, when that's not even a true source. That's a third party after the fact source of what's actually on the market. It doesn't make sense. So, yeah.
So, where can an average person like myself, not in real estate, go to find the most accurate value of your house?
My best advice realistically would be I would really compare all the sites. I definitely would still go back to AirDNA to kind of calculate your rate as well, because I can kind of give you an idea of where that home should be too. But I would just even try to compare it to different ones. I think homes.com is a little better when it comes to it. Still not a true source because it doesn't really calculate what transacted that day. But pull that up, pull a realtor up, and then kind of look at the average and look at the difference, right? Because you're going to have some that are way up here, you're going to have some that are a little lower. And I can kind of tell you where it is. And even just look on the market and look at the houses surrounding you. What's pending, right? What just sold? And to really kind of look at, is my market, is my area up, or are the homes a little lower price? And that's going to kind of tell you how wrong and how far off that estimate is really going to be.
I think that was a lot of great information right there. And I think I even learned a little bit of something. So we definitely appreciate that.
Oh yeah, that, you know me, I love talking about that and love teaching people about it. So that's why I love when people ask me questions, because there is so much to learn, and even for myself too. I try to learn every day because there is so much to it. And I know when I first got into this business, my head was spinning. I had no clue. Even just reading a contract, I'm like, what? Huh? So it's a lot involved. I've been lucky to be surrounded around too a lot of other good agents and a good group of mentors who really kind of help put a lot of that in my mind and my perspective, and that really helped teach me a lot of the stuff that I want to share to people today.
Yeah, it looks like you do a lot of networking, and I think I see that on your socials.
Yeah, I try to. I really do. It's hard to get out and make the time, but I've learned that with doing the network events, there's so much stuff you learn. You know what I mean? And there's some really intelligent people out there that are doing some phenomenal stuff. Even for myself, right? I got a lot of investing goals and dreams that I want to accomplish. And there's some of the things that I would never even learn if I didn't get out there and just talk to people about it. Just and that's just how it goes. And then just learning some of the different ways you can go about getting wealth, right? Like pulling out equity out of your home or best time to pay off, or even putting extra $10 to $15 over time on the life of the loan just to pay off your current loan. Or if you can make one extra payment a year, how much time it really takes off the lifespan of that loan, right? There's so many things I've learned just by networking that you will never know unless you really get out there and just ask people those questions.
Yeah, I can remember that's one of the things that you told me when we were working on getting my house.
Yeah.
Just make that a little extra payment. It'd go a long way.
Yeah, and people they don't do it, but until somebody really gets out that calculator and thinks about it, right? Extra $5 that apply to the principal of this loan because interest is going to add up. You're going to get rid of all that interest and you're just going to actually pay your house down instead of making this a 30-year loan. Like I know some people they want to take out 15-year loans, right? And I look at that and it's man, kudos to you to be willing to do that, but that payment is a lot harder. And if a life emergency pop up, how do you cover that? Maybe a little easier if you just take a 30, 45, 50-year loan, whatever, a 100-year loan that they're going to come up with eventually, I'm sure. You know what I mean? I think they actually do that in China, Japan. I think there's actually like a 100-year loan. And I think that's how they actually pass down a generation of families like that. I remember reading
Yeah.
something about that before. But getting back to what we're talking about, take out that 30-year loan, but then just make the same payment as a 15-year loan. People don't think
Oh,
about
wow.
that.
Yeah.
Think how much faster you're going to pay off that property, right? So then if you really want to take off that equity, you're going to actually incur a lot more because the principal of that property is going to be so much lower. Think about how much more I can actually take out to even buy that rental property. There's a lot of
Yeah.
tricks to the game that people don't think about. And if you don't ask the right questions, you will never know. And that's how these people are going out here buying all this stuff up.
Daryl, once again, appreciate all the really good information. So if you have any questions for Daryl, shoot us an email, unpavedapproach@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Once again, thanks everyone for listening to Unpaved Approach. If you enjoyed today's episode, hit the follow, leave us a review, and share it with a friend. Keep building the life you want, one unpaved step at a time.